नमस्कार, जय हिंद, जय भारत and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Aadi Achint. मेरे साथ है लेफ्टिनेंट जनरल देवेंद्र प्रताप पांडे. I'm sure all of you have heard about sir. सर का नाम एक बड़ी चीज में आता है एंड उसके बारे में तो बात करेंगे, बट सर का नाम आता है जब तिरंगा फहरता है जम्मू कश्मीर में, और ऐसी जगह में फहराता है जहां पर तिरंगा का नाम तक नहीं सुना था लोगों ने. एंड दैट्स व्हाई आई से दैट first of all, inspiration and a legend. Thank you so much, sir, for your service and for the taking out time to actually talk to me. I'm मतलब वेट कर रहा था मैं आपसे सीखने के लिए.
Very grateful, yeah. Firstly, Jai Hind, Jai Bharat to you as well. And I'm so glad that this opportunity has come about to talk to you, because having gone through your since the time you called me up, I've gone through quite a few of your Dev Talk shows, and I realized that you are doing a yeoman service to our country by bringing out very, very unique stuff and putting it out. Because I firmly believe that as the time comes, the documentary evidence in terms of paper and Tamrapatra and all is going to go, but the digital thing which comes out, whatever right or wrong you are going to put it out, will always be permanently somewhere in form of 0, 1, did karke, will always remain permanent. And therefore, I think what you're doing is outstanding and excellent. But coming on to this issue, before we start, I must put record straight that the Tiranga thing, while idea may have been mine to some extent, but there were some very great people who allowed it to, who actually were the force behind. Okay, if something had gone wrong, I would have taken the fall for it. And of course, there were a lot of people who were unhappy in a variety of environment, and they got after me because they were very fearful of what will happen in that. But having served so many times, I realized there's a huge number of population there which feels that they are not being allowed to be attached to the national symbols. And time and again, they are being only thrown out symbols like the black flag with the markings and the green flag with the markings and their own Jammu and Kashmir flag and stuff like that. And that I saw that underlying request or talk in my early tenure. And then as a GOC Kilo Force, I applied that to some extent. But the moment I went as a corps commander, I knew that there's an opportunity for me to change and bring Tiranga and many other national symbols into this thing. So, and let's see how much they love. But there's an officer called Major General Sanjay Vishwas Rao. He looked after largely in Srinagar and in this environment, and my all formation commanders understood the rallying point and they took it on to go to remotest of the areas. The good part was in North Kashmir, it was organic. Into the valleys which are, along the borders where Indian Army lives with the people, it was absolutely organic. People were wanting to fly. The moment they got an opportunity, they started flying. Tiranga in whichever form they had to. We didn't have to do much. But in Lal Chowk, there were very good Kashmiris who came along. It was not Indian Army who did. We only enabled or allowed them to. So, they are guys who practice in the night. They came, climbed, they did everything. The credit goes to that courageous Kashmiris who did it. We only provided an environment. I don't want to take the credit, but they are my...
environment and idea is more than enough. That's what matters quite a bit, sir. Sir, since we are talking about that region, थोड़ा सा वहाँ की बात कर लेते हैं. और आजकल what we are seeing there is, of course, political turmoil, much expected after a long time government has come. That's fine. I don't mind that. But having said that, ये जो अभी recently this spate of attacks which are actually happening, there's a certain change in terms of the tactic, hit and run sort of attacks, ambush कर दिया, खड़े होके लड़ना नहीं है. अब वो लड़ते हैं because our guys go and surround them, so they have to fight after that. But mostly they're trying to hit and run. They don't want to stand and fight. So as a commander of that region, what do you think, sir? Don't they have the kind of manpower that they used to have where they were actually standing and fighting? What is the character change that you see in these kind of recent attacks?
You see, there's a point which I have been articulating time and again. Firstly, ये चीज अपनी जिंदगी में याद रखना, जिस जगह पर एक बार इंसर्जेंसी शुरू हो जाती है, वो कभी जीरो नहीं होती। एक वायरस होता है, वो दब जाता है थ्रू ट्रीटमेंट। देयर आर इनफ पीपल विद इन दैट एनवायरमेंट and there are many more outside the environment to fan that area of virus so that the fire comes out again and it hits it strongly or it keeps on emerging time and again. For example, like in Northeast, we knew Manipur to be a resolved issue
That's
forever.
good. Hmm.
But the fault line was always there to be manipulated by either internal forces or external forces, right? And the moment external forces come in, that happens very fast. तो अगर आप ये सोचते हो कि जम्मू कश्मीर के अंदर आपने को झंडा हिलाया, बहुत मेहनत से काम किया और वहां पे पीस हो जाएगा और हमेशा के लिए रहेगा, वो इम्पॉसिबल है। बिकॉज ऑफ द लोकेशन वेयर इट इज विद पाकिस्तान, द पाकिस्तान's nature to exploit, they have talked of 1,000 cuts in 1,000 years, right? वो 1,000 year तो उसने 1970 क्या सॉरी 1980s में बोला था भुट्टो ने, एंड देन जियाउल हक फॉलोड थ्रू। वो तो भी 30-40 साल भी नहीं हुए, 1,000 years तो भी चलेगा। So why do you think they are going to rest? Their orientation has not accepted the two state based on a secular kind of environment and one preeminently only Muslim environment. They have not accepted. They will never accept. The moment they accept, they'll fracture and they'll fall apart because that is the glue they are trying to use to bind together. The second is this Indian nation per se, which is made of so many small little sub nations to get together, and that is where our strong point is. That is also a weakness. Correct. The moment you try and show that मैं तो अमेरिका के साथ में हूँ तो चाइना और बाकी पीछे पड़ जाएंगे, आप कहो कि मैं तो चाइना के साथ में हूँ तो बाकी पीछे पड़ जाएंगे, somebody else, we are boxed into an area with the human resource of nearly 1.4 billion. We will always be on the spotlight of the world to never be allowed to be left in peace. They will always try to leverage us. Which is the best leverage? Areas of Northeast, areas of Jammu and Kashmir, then the areas wherever there are Muslim majorities of different times. Otherwise, you will talk of caste, you will talk of religion, you will talk of khana, pina, and we are very well willing to be divided very fast. So this point is not going to go over so fast. So perception that zero terrorist ho gaya, galat hai. There will always be some terrorists who will not fight, who will stay like home, घर के अंदर रह रहे हैं। और हमारे तो देश में आप कहीं भी चले जाओ, foreigners are staying without any, you will know very well with Aadhaar card, with identity card, these terrorists who come, they carry all these things. The issue what is coming out is south of Pir Panjal essentially, right? The current operation. The terrain allows for it. You may have the best of troops, best of equipment, best of technology. But when you just got one or two companies or a battalion to look after about hundreds of kilometers of jungles, in which there are folds and foliage and dense jungle and the mountains and hilltops, technology fails. Technology failed with Israelis with a flattish land which was totally open and to be seen. Gaza. How do you expect technology to, and this area is got a mixed kind of a population. Some Hindus, some Muslims, and these Muslims are very, very pro India Muslims. But over a period of time, there is a settlement which has taken place in these areas, which allows the residing of this thing to become much more comfortable. So I think these are all messaging. They are highly trained people. They will never take a combat. Initially, also they never wanted, but you don't have that kind of a force that jungle में कहीं पे attack हुआ, and suddenly everybody will come around and surround them, and thereafter that operation will happen. They'll be knocked off. That's a challenge, right? The spread is too huge. It is nearly, I have a 50 corps commander. I can always say that मेरा इलाका बहुत tough था, but I feel this area south of Pir Panjal is far more tougher because our terrain is so well in Kashmir. The terrain is boxed by very steep mountains which are snow covered, right? They got population bases into the valley floor. Ana Jana can be controlled, managed, monitored, right? But in case of Doda, Kishtwar, Rajouri, Punch, from the entire area of Sambha, Kathua, wherever you want to enter, you can enter. You can have a drone drop of ammunition, weapon, drugs, and thereafter you take a bus or a truck and thereafter walk into the jungles and start operating. There's an ease of operation there, which is not there in the valley. Valley ideology was supporting at time, which is also not gone missing, so they can't operate in that very free manner. So I think these are the challenges we need to expect. The forces are, I think, have been able to generate contact. They've been able to not utilize few people, but I think they have got hard work to do it.
Sir, your point is very well taken, and ये चीज तो काफी हद तक I keep talking on the channel कि ये कभी खत्म नहीं होगा, because जब तक पाकिस्तान है, till the day the Pakistani as a nation exists, firstly I don't consider it as a country itself, but whatever entity exists there, वो they will keep on doing this, क्योंकि उनको आपको बे पे रखना है. They have this, if nothing else, इससे कोई फर्क तो ज्यादा पड़ता नहीं है, but they have that innate system कि वो करना है, this is something we have to do, तो वो करते रहेंगे. But having said that, sir, when we see the situation today, जो आज वहां पर लड़ रहे हैं लोग और जो ये लोग बाहर से आते हैं, what we see today is, and a lot of people get upset about this, and आप being a force commander in that area, if you can help us understand, is that हमारी casualties भी हो रही हैं, right? And we had 3 injuries, and a couple of days ago, 1 death of a special forces guy. Is this normal, or is there something new that these guys are doing that they are able to get us? जो बीच में एक रूमर भी चला था कि भाई एसएसजी वाले आ गए हैं, वो एक रूमर था 5-600, वो तो मैं मानता नहीं था, but
I will clarify a couple of points. In fact, yesterday somebody tweeted that when will Indian Army will have good equipment? Indian Army is well equipped, well trained. What people have to understand that we are trained, and this is what unfortunately the political bosses of Jammu and Kashmir have to tell their own population कि जो हमारी देश की सेना है वो गोली पहले नहीं चला सकती. मैंने अगर जंगल में फायर किया, पहले हरकत देखी और फायर किया, उसमें से कोई औरत या बच्चा निकल के आ गया, तो आप मुझे छोड़ देंगे? या उसकी जो जवान की कॉन्शियसनेस है या हमारी जो फौज की कॉन्शियसनेस है वो छोड़ देंगे उसको? We cannot open fire in which on a doubt, on a perception of doubt, on a possibility of a terrorist. The initiative to open fire will always be with the terrorist. So you're moving in a bus, you're moving in a truck, you're moving on a patrol, and you see a movement. I can not just push my weapon and fire a burst in that with the presumption of a possibility of a terrorist. उसमें से कोई निकल गया बच्चा, कोई एक यूथ निकल गया, कोई जवान बुढ़ा निकल गया, तो हम अपनी आंख में देख नहीं सकते, because that is our grooming and training that you can't. We are not like Pakistanis. We are not like so many, even the Western countries where they will pound a village and then they will walk in and thereafter you will find one terrorist killed and 5 civilians killed or 10 civilians killed. We can't do that, right? They are our own people. So this challenge will always be remembered, and this is what is spotted. That they know कि ये तो fire नहीं करेगा, so okay, let's hit and run. And the moment you hit, and thereafter to chase them out, it's a very difficult tactic to play out. We haven't yet been able to roll up, right? This area will also start changing maybe after another 15, 20 days, 1 month or 2 months time. The other issue what we have to understand is the situation in which these people are operating is not being, पहले क्या था कि हम कश्मीरी पॉलिटिशियन को ब्लेम कर सकते थे कि वो सेपरेटिज्म की बात करता है, वो पाकिस्तान के साथ बात करता है, वो एक अपने स्पेशल स्टेटस की बात करता है. आज तो आपके जो जम्मू और उसके अंदर हमारे हिंदू भाई हैं और whatever those politicians are there, they are talking the same language, right? They are talking of a distinctiveness from the rest of the country, which is true. But that is true for the Dogras in Jammu. That is also true to Kishtwar guys who are totally distinct from Jammu guys. It is also very unique to Punchis and Jauris. It is also very unique to people from Kandahar and from Grace who are more like Baltis. It is also, by the way, unique to people in Punjab who are right short of Pathankot and below. Our country is made of unique people. If everybody who's unique has to be given an identity, So in Jammu region itself, you will find कि जो कटवा वाला कहता है वो तो मैं दूसरा खाना खाता हूँ, और उसके आगे आप सामा में चले जाओ, मैं तो दूसरे तरफ का खाना खाता हूँ. We'll start dividing ourselves. So the end, why this happens, this whole thing is when the entire nation, entire community doesn't speak in one voice. And that is why these people are able to come up and fire and do all this nonsense of killing 2 VDGs. The moment the politicians, the moment the people of Jammu and Kashmir, from Jammu and Kashmir talk in one language, हम भारतीय हैं, हम भारत के साथ में हैं, और हमारे और उसके बीच में कोई बैरियर नहीं होगा, these things will finish. बट ये जो वायरस हमने घुसा रखा है ना पिछले 75 साल से 77 साल for 75 years of that special status, which is not technically a special status, we all know what it was. They also understand, but it's a political brinkmanship. So it will come back. I'm sure we'll start knocking off. But the fact is, this whole thing which holds our hand into an operation is a challenge. And frankly, I will not be able to bring out and tell my men. And it is not only me. The soldiers know that they can't open fire just like that. Yes, the moment we start doing it, ठीक है, 4 casualty civilian की होगी, एक terrorist मारा जाएगा. Is it possible to accept in our country? I don't think so.
Sir, a lot of people advocate for basically giving cost to Pakistan. Ceasefire खोल दो. No, I'm not an advocate of that because आप फायर करोगे वो भी फायर करेगा इस तरफ, और हमारे लोगों को जो पहले डैमेज होता था, बेचारों के जानवर मर जाते थे. They used to be spending time in the bunkers and this and that. I don't care what happens that side, but this side there was impact. I'm not very pro that. So do you think giving a cost, and let me, if I may take 10 seconds more, sir. Mr. Modi tried, जब वो आए थे, इन्होंने ट्राई करा बात करने की, वो चला नहीं. उसके बाद Uri, Pathankot and all that happened. So they went in for a surgical strike. It reduced the quantum a little bit. But उसके बाद भी आपका Uri हुआ. फिर air strike करी आपने जाके. Uri, Pulwama, all that stuff happened. So you did surgical strike, you did an air strike. उससे थोड़ा सा quantum और कम हो गया. We've not had those big banging attacks जो पहले होते थे, 40-50 एक साथ casualties and this and that. So the level of violence has come down. But does actually hitting Pakistan inside in these bases and these terror infrastructures that side, would that make much of a difference to bring the level of violence down? Or would it be just a temporary kind of a, game? They can just shift their status a little bit somewhere else.
Yeah, this is a very difficult question you ask a military officer, especially of a senior rank who's just retired, But my line, when I was serving also, I was asked this question in public, in media, and in my radical circle also. As a soldier, I would love to fight. I would love ceasefire to happen, ceasefire not to happen. Like fire across and kill the man and kill the enemy, right? But as a citizen, as a thinking person, I will not advocate that. There are a couple of reasons for it. Okay, there are strategic ramifications, there are tactical ramifications. You may hit and kill and bring a cost onto the Pakistanis, right? But what do you do to your own people? आपका जो कश्मीर या जम्मू के अंदर या अखनूर या पलामाला में है, जिसके ऊपर गोला गिरता है, वो भी तो आपका सिविलियन है ना. There are the consequences. The bottom line is, we as professional military force, when we fire across, we try and find out where the Pakistani army is and bring the punishment to them. So what they have done, they go inside the headquarters and battalion headquarters and the company headquarters and the troops. They start living within the people and the population. Their gun areas will come under the population. It is a very unethical army, right? They will always hide behind their civilians. And that is what they have been doing all the time. Whereas when they fire, they don't fire on our headquarters, on our posts. Generally, वो एक गोला हमारे ऊपर मारेगा, 4 मारेगा हमारे सिविलियन के ऊपर.
Civilians के ऊपर.
Yeah, so उसकी मवेशी मरते हैं, उसके बच्चे मरते हैं, उसके स्कूल नहीं जा सकता, उसका बिजनेस ठप पड़ जाता है. You look at our population is living right next till the LOC. Whereas in their case, it's not so, right? It's a thriving market, thriving people who are living. That is one part that if we feel कि हमारे बंदे नहीं हैं, then maybe we can always do. I don't think so. That's the nature which our government, our politician at the higher level and even the military, things like that, right? So that when there's a requirement, you must punish as much as required, but thereafter it cannot be an ongoing problem. The third point is that remember, when we carry out these kind of punishments, when they have those deaths, what happens to their population? Right now, their population is chasing the Pakistan army, right? They are burning their tails. But when we get involved to give them that kind of a punishment, they will start. That is exactly what they want. तुम कुछ करो तो देश मेरे साथ हो जाए. पाकिस्तान के बिना, आर्मी के बिना काम नहीं चलेगा. So the establishment wants us to do all that thing at a sub-tactical level, so that strategically they get empowered within the population. They can continue to do and rule the country the way without being questioned. So we need to look at the higher plane, I guess. Right now they are in a mess. They are managing a mess, and they should continue to manage that mess within this thing. But the moment you hit out on them militarily, it will bind that population. The last point which I want to say is that talks will never work with Pakistan. Talks will never. The way I am also talking, that our own people in Jammu, after all, the conditions for the situation, what is happening is being given by our people. हमारे ही तो आदमी जयचंद हैं, हमारे ही आदमी हमारे दुश्मन हैं. When somebody comes out and says, उनसे बात कर लो ठीक हो, उसको मालूम है कि बात करने में वो ठीक नहीं होगा. Everybody knows. In private, they will all confess, they will all say, but to target a particular set of community or particular set of people, they'll always come out and उनके साथ बात कर लो. What बात? You started trade with them. What came from the trade? Only weapons, drugs, nothing much. हमारे वाले बंदों को, जम्मू कश्मीर वाले बंदों को क्या फायदा हुआ? कुछ नहीं. यहाँ से जो जी सामान वहां जाती है, जितने भाव पे बिकती है, उससे कहीं महंगे भाव के ऊपर. In fact, whatever is being grown in Jammu and Kashmir is being pre-booked, pre-ordered by the merchants and the traders in India. In rest of the this thing, thing. So why do we need to do the trade with them? For what? To get you can't stop when 100 trucks come. These people are very, very devious. They will send those items which are not required to be sent by us, along with the radical thought which comes along with it. So I don't think so. They will never change. उनके तो कल्चर में, उनकी जहन में है, वो तो पैदा ही उसी चीज के लिए हुआ था. How can it change tomorrow its own thing? If you think of it, now let's talk of saner government, democratic governments came. Benazir Bhutto came. What did she do? उसके बाप जी आए, उन्होंने क्या किया? Every time they were powerful, they had a stable government. They had a fantastic martial law under Ziaul Haq. What did he do? After pass. There's a fantastic government under Nawaz Sharif. What did he do? Kargil. Every time they got a stable government, they got enough power, they got economic support, they got countries lined up behind them. They come biting on our heels. So I think they're chewing themselves. Let them chew. Let's not do any silly thing to unite them.
I kind of agree with you, because Pakistan ka to the army chief, and I call him Asim. Anyways, this guy, he's been looking for trouble because अंदर तो काफी हालत खराब है. तो कहीं कुछ इधर उधर हो जाए तो यार एटलीस्ट मेरे पीछे से जो आग लगी हुई है मेरे पीछे, उसको तो हटाऊं मैं. So he would want that to happen. Absolutely, sir. So when we talk about this whole radicalization in the valley, we see that there is a mass improvement. आज कल में हम लोग देख रहे थे जो आर्मी रिक्रूटमेंट की जो रैली आई वहां पर, a huge sea of people that were there, which I have not seen before. पहले तो ऐसी चीजें दिखती थी जब वो टेररिस्ट का किसी का जनाजा वनाजा जाता था, तो we could see that sea of people. Today we've got a sea of people wanting to join the army. Very interesting. I won't make a judgment out of it, but what do you think when you see something like that? As the youth, who was probably about 13, 15 during the time 2019, today is becoming voters' age, passing class 12th. Do you think that generation will have a little less kind of, for lack of a better phrase, an institutional memory of what used to happen here?
It's a very loaded question and very difficult to answer. And unfortunately, I'm known to be very blunt. So you asked me on a camera. The bottom line is that radicalization is increasing.
Thank you for
Do
that,
not
sir.
look at the numbers swelling for. There are few segments of society, right? They are, I will say, some of them are detached from others, but there are people who are bordering on this side and that side. So coming for a job, coming to join army, and proudly being a soldier has got a different segment which wants to join, right? And that's a very small proportion. The larger radicalization is already happening. It is beyond our control. We have to make effort to roll it back, right? Suddenly, there is a gentleman who was a mayor of Srinagar.
Sir.
Okay, unfortunately, I'm going to the political realm. All the time was salute, Jai Hind, everything was on. The moment the time for politics came, he wanted to this thing. He suddenly started totally becoming a Islamized, follower of religion. Became, perfect. His comments, everything started. Now, the moment it has got over, the trend has again changed. Why do people have to do all this when they know that they may be able to influence? But population understands, right? So जमात इस्लामी वाला बंदा जब वो आएगा उसके लिए उसको ज्यादा वोट नहीं मिलेंगे because while they are tired at the people who are in the voting age of what is nonsense happening. But then there are also when you say 1% radicalized in a 14 lakh population where there is 7 lakh Muslims, if 1% is popular is
It's a large number.
it's a large number, but I'm not saying 1%, much more than that. The fact is that there's an online radicalization, there's a soft radicalization which is happening. It is happening in terms of you may go to one of the best schools there, right? And if you happen to be a girl, if you're a boy, it's okay, it may not be. But if you happen to be a girl, you need to go for special classes at 3, at 4, 5, 6 of age in the evening to learn about religion. It's a good thing. They must. The choice of how much and how far is not decided in our country. You can start at 0 age. But when they come and interact with you and they talk a language which is slightly bordering on radicalization, then it's very difficult to see. The child doesn't know what she's talking. उसके दिमाग में भर दिया है already, वो तो अभी उसी हिसाब से चलेगी. So now when she will come up, it will take a lot of time to see a pluralistic environment in which she lives, to understand that there is only not one set of people who live in this world. Either I'm a Kashmiri and I'm following a particular religion. She doesn't know this thing called Kashmiri Pandit who should stay. Yep. She also doesn't know कि एक सरदार होना चाहिए, उसको हिंदू होना चाहिए, right? You imagine the racial nature which is existing. I think I may write an article on this, that when they say local, non-local, mar gaya. And mind you, this is not only in Kashmir. It is not restricted to Muslims. This is on both sides. It is, you see the tweets, I read the tweets of
I've seen even Hindu saying the same thing, sir. It's very
sad.
Girls
are saying, वो क्या थे झारखंडी और बिहारी और यूपी, यार तुम्हारे हाथ से काम नहीं होता, ठीक है? वो बेचारा अपनी पेट की भूख मनाने के लिए आपके पास में आता है, आपका पूरा काम करता है, चला जाता है. That's okay. And so are you. You're going out to rest of the country for your job. Similarly, the children from Jammu Kashmir are studying all over the country. Why country? All over the world. If you're treated in a similar manner, the way you are treating who are coming, so what is poor? Very, very, we in India are racial, and we are actually divided on rich. And if you're fair and you got money, you will get accepted anywhere, right? But if you're a dark-skinned guy and you're poor, God have mercy on you. So somewhere, these things are very unique and distinctive, which are much more prominent here, which is not even prominent anywhere else. So the long and short is that online radicalization is happening, there are offline radicalization happening, and while curriculums have been changed in the school to some degree of this thing, वरना तो curriculum में उनके पढ़ाई गलत चल रहा था, history गलत थी. So some changes have happened, and I'm quite sure, I am hopeful that the governments don't change. The positive side of education. But there's a lot of hard work required.
You've mentioned this, and I find there's a certain sense of, you know, I don't know how to put it across, but eliteness कि भाई हमारा तो ये अलग है, हमारा system अलग है. Would you comment on that, sir?
Yeah, so it's not new. The population of Kashmir doesn't even know what they want actually. Why do they want 370 application का जो है reinstatement होना चाहिए? जिनको नहीं मालूम था 370 के बारे में. But when all politicians across all hues, you start running a narrative that 370 जाने से हम बिल्कुल नंगे हो गए, भूखे हो गए, हमारी जॉब चली गई, अब तो सामान चला गया, पैसा चला गया, सब कुछ हो गया, अब तो सब यूपी पंजाब से बिजनेसमैन आके सब कुछ खरीद लेंगे और हम सब भाग के चले जाएंगे. This question was asked to me by somebody else also, and I said that nobody is going to, why should I go and stay in Kashmir or Ladakh or in Jammu when my roots are elsewhere? What do you offer there? Why will I invest money? And by the way, if I invest money to buy creating a infrastructure or a hotel or a business, who gets the job there? Do I get a job or you get a job? So you want the money to become, but the ownership should remain with you. You want people to come, but they should be your slave, right? You want everything. ये job तो आएंगे नहीं, सबसे ज़्यादा job तो उधर ही है, right? And खर्चा बिल्कुल नहीं है. But the bottom line is that they have made a hover out of it that 370 is unique. Why should you have a different constitution? Why should we not have same constitution? We are part of a same flag. So the present army chief, when he came to me and I took him to Lal Chowk, he met some lady, and she was the daughter of a politician, very senior politician. She said, "Thank God, आज की तारीख में ये clear हो गया मुझको कि हमारे यहाँ पे झंडा कौन चढ़ना चाहिए. Why should we have two flags?" Yeah, so it is the reflection of divided loyalty. It's the reflection of a hope कि वो वाले को नीचे करके हम इसको जला देंगे. It came as an addition. It was not even sought. Somebody, when the constitution was written, did that hera fairy on some request of somebody, and this whole additional line got added under a fear of somebody will come. How many people want to go and settle down in Punjab or in Jammu and Kashmir or in Tamil? There will be a fraction of people who will go and settle down. Majority will want to go back. You're not Canada or US that you leave and go and make a house and thereafter stay there ever. In fact, the people who are going to Canada, US, Australia are also not coming back to your roots. So roots matter, and I think they have taken it too far. And this narrative requires to be stopped at some point of time. The beauty is that the politician, the common person in the street wants one line from him. And I use a word called ambivalence of the political strata there. दिल्ली में आके बोलेंगे जय हिंद जय भारत तिरंगे को सलाम. जम्मू में जाके बोलेंगे कि जम्मू कश्मीर एक है. कश्मीर में जाने के बाद बोलेंगे कि हमको 370 अलग चाहिए, हमारा तो अलग है. We are unique. Why should we, they talk differently in different languages, different places. 20 years back, this was not evident. But now, whatever you record with a mic or a mobile which records everything, it goes into the media. The population wants to know. The moment you start telling a narrative to the population that we are all Indians, look at across, 70 साल आपका होप था कि हम सेपरेट हो जाएंगे और हम पाकिस्तान में चले जाएंगे. वहां की हालत देखो, वहीं पाकिस्तान की हालत मत देखो. Keep on going west as you go to west, or keep on going south to southwest. You will not like to be part. And Adi, Kashmiris are very, very modern below that skin of theirs, which has been thrust on them. They are very metropolitan. They are very brilliant and intelligent and intellectual. Their sense of poetry, their sense of singing, their sense of dance, their artistic sense in terms of weaving into a cloth or weaving into the environment is phenomenal. But so I think once this ambivalence goes from the mind of the politicians, we will not speak two voices. So the moment you have two jhandas, you'll have two loyalties. You'll never have one loyalty.
Yeah.
So I think it needs to go, but they are not learned to listen. I was watching somebody from Jammu, you know, saying that 370 जाने से क्या क्या हुआ. They are unnecessarily preying on people.
Thank you for
I'm sorry,
making that extremely clear, sir.
but
No,
I
sir. As a matter of fact, I've said this on the channel too many times. You're just
feel
another.
bad for the people from Jammu, Kashmir. उससे ज्यादा मुझे ये किश्तवाड़, डोडा, राजौरी, पुंछ वालों पे बुरा हाल है. इनके बारे में तो कोई पूछ ही नहीं रहा है.
जम्मू रीजन के बारे में कोई नहीं पूछता, सब बेचारे वहां पे बैठे रहते हैं. You know, मैं यही सर, एज अ मैटर ऑफ फैक्ट आई हैव सेड दिस टू मेनी टाइम्स ऑन द चैनल कि यार ये जो आपका ये एंटाइटलमेंट है ना, इसको जरा साइड में रखो. यू एंड आई आर द सेम पीपल. ठीक है, इफ आई एम नॉट गेटिंग एनी स्पेशल प्रिविलेज, यू आरंट. सो जस्ट कीप योर एंटाइटलमेंट वेयर इन द डस्टबिन, मोर और लेस. एज अ मैटर ऑफ फैक्ट ये हमको बड़ा क्लियरली सेट करना चाहिए कि भाई बस हो गया, तुम पार्लियामेंट में अपनी जो मर्जी करते रहो, इट डजंट रियली मैटर टू अस. दिस इज द लॉ, दिस इज द
7 tenures in Valley.
सर.
If you give me a piece of land to buy and stay there forever, do you think I like to? जो कश्मीरी है, जो कश्मीरी एलीट है, जो इसके बारे में बात करता है, the Kashmiri elites are the one who are making the narrative ना. उनसे पूछो कि उनके घर कहाँ कहाँ पर है. How many months they stay in Kashmir Valley with their own people?
Yeah.
While they stay in fantastic AC, heated, plush bungalows, they leave, they fly out, फट करके बाहर. कोई चंडीगढ़ में रहता है, किसी का बेटा बैंगलोर में, बच्ची, किसी की बेटी बैंगलोर में पढ़ रही है, किसी की अब्रॉड पढ़ रही है. They are all spending time outside.
Yeah.
वो तो पॉलिटिक्स करने के लिए वहां जाते हैं.
एग्जैक्टली सर, एग्जैक्टली.
Then
वही है सर. थोड़ा फोकस शिफ्ट करें सर इस तरफ. चाइना पाकिस्तान का जो कोल्यूजन है, वी सी दैट द चाइनीज आर लेइंग ऑप्टिकल फाइबर ऑन द एलओसी एंड ये वो एंड ऑल दैट. मतलब वो पूरा एक जो इनका द एसओपी जो चाइना एलएसी की तरफ करता है, ही इज काइंड ऑफ कॉपिंग इट द अदर वे अराउंड आल्सो. We can see that, although it's not very consequential because I don't see any plans of going inside there and doing something. But what do you think China is looking at as far as Pakistan is concerned in Kashmir area before we go to the India-China this thing, sir?
Yeah, देखो, Adi, Pakistan is no more an independent state. Firstly, it is owned by the Pak army, right? And I look at it as one of the provinces of China today. Right? When the women of Pakistan are being picked up and taken to China, when the Chinese people are coming and supervising their work on various places, establishments inside, their entire inventory has now become Chinese, good or bad or ugly. You have got roads which are being constructed by Chinese company all along that BRI belt which is being prepared. You got infrastructure which are being made, run, and operated by their own people. I think Pakistan is a labor force now for China, and it's not a strategic tool. It is much worse than what Tibet is actually, had the bad end of the stick from the Chinese. But Pakistan is seeing some much brutal side in terms of, because now the economy, after all, Tibet में आके रहना बड़ा मुश्किल है Chinese के लिए. But when you have your being carried and married elsewhere as a keep or something, इससे बुरी हालत क्या हो सकती है किसी एक देश की. तो one is this. Second is, whatever infrastructure which they are developing for Pakistan, they may not want to do it, but it is an investment for future to empower, enable Pakistan to do whatever they want to do at their bidding. When we come to the China side talk, never ever start thinking that this tactical, I'll not say strategic retreat, this tactical retreat or acceptance or move back is only, Chinese don't see for 5 years or 6 years or 10 years or election to election. They have a game plan for 100 years, right? And behind that facade of a very neutral face, उनका दिमाग बहुत आगे तक चलता है. हमारे यहाँ नहीं चलता कि वो एक गोल हुआ, सेलिब्रेट करा और खूब कूदने लगे और जीत गए, उसके बाद में 4 गोल टूटे and we are lost. They look very far. They really follow the principle of Sun Tzu in a very, very different manner. So therefore, all this investment is to empower. Nobody, he's a businessman. they will spend that every dime in Pakistan in which they are going to get a long-term strategic advantage. And I feel that empowering Pakistan Army is like they are creating another theater command for themselves, in which the manpower belongs to somebody else, equipment is somebody else, and you're selling that equipment to that chap, right? Which you can leverage when the time requires. So even if they have to connect all these fibers or OFCs and all for a communication to have a mutual exchange of information. So how do you send information? Like you put in a RPV or a satellite imagery and you want to see what is happening on the Pakistan border, you pick it up, it gets downloaded to somewhere to a Chinese base, and when it should be sent to Pakistan for them to observe very, very live information, you require communication links. Right? It may happen through space, it may happen through OFC. OFC is much more reliant, much more capable, much more can carry much more bandwidth and so there are so many things. While it will empower the Pakistan Army to use the same facility to communicate, to move forward, it's a great infrastructure investment for them and also to share knowledge either way.
So, you know, and I absolutely agree with you with regards to China. It's a tactical move. उससे ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं है. धीरे-धीरे करके वो अपनी थोड़ी सी प्रॉब्लम सॉर्ट आउट करने की कोशिश कर रहा है. यार, मैं आई कांट हैंडल दिस राइट नाउ. थोड़ा पीछे हट जाता हूँ. बाकी बाद में देखेंगे. लड़ना तो है इनके साथ. वी विल फिगर इट आउट लेटर ऑन. And plus global geopolitics.
लड़ना नहीं. He is not going to fight. If you ever think he's going to fight, you're sadly mistaken. But he will come and occupy if you're weak. And the weakness are in three levels. I'm sorry, I'll interrupt before you ask.
No, please.
One is the geopolitical level. The moment they realize that India is geopolitically, economically weak, they will apply the pressure.
Gee.
Second is the moment they know there's a fractured government in the center, which is part viable either through economic inducement or economic pressure. Both works, you know. That is the time they will play. And the third is when we get committed into some other crisis of ours and we leave looking at this very, very smart contestant who's there. He only seeks to salami slice. आप उधर देखो थोड़ा सा आगे आ जाएगा, फिर आप उधर देखो फिर थोड़ा सा आगे आ जाएगा. And then he will withdraw out of 10, he will withdraw 5 and say, and you know, we Indians are very happy. देखो 5 पीछे भेज दिया, 5 भेज दिया, हमारा हो गया काम. We'll celebrate, we'll forget about it, and then he'll come back the next day. Does it matter? Are we losing anything? Well, the long call has to be taken by us. इज्जत भी कोई चीज होती है, जमीन भी कोई चीज होती है. And a lot of people sitting in Bombay, in Delhi, in pubs and clubs, they talk, अरे क्या है, it's a wasteland, दे दो, you know. But those people don't understand the strategic ramification of losses of these areas. So he's just taken a step back for some time. He'll come back.
Yeah. But absolutely. I said this the day one. This is a tactical retreat. ये बदमाश है. ध्यान रखो. You know, trust but verify. So ये India China का जो angle है, strategic military terms. Let's talk about that. We see that the Chinese militaries and the Indian military का comparative करते हैं. People do number by number technology and this and that, but the reality is totally different. And I'm sure you've seen that on the ground as well. And this I learned from Chinese bloggers themselves. Actually, a lot of Chinese bloggers have been talking about this. Ki yaar, we have challenges. We are not that capable in that altitude. We are not that capable against India. Let's pick a bloody enemy that we can fight with. 2-3 bloggers have written this. Of course, difficult to find, but you do find it within China. What has China kind of learned about India in the past 4 years that it has been on the border? In terms of military, we've seen it getting beaten back. We've seen incidents happening again and again and this and that. What do you think they've learned? And what have we learned? I mean, have we kind of changed our tactic towards China in the past 4 years?
So I will not talk what we have learned because that is up to the people who are in the chair not to comment. But through this answers I'll give, what they must do and continue to do is also will emerge. It's a very good question. I wish you had told me before that you'll be asking. I would have prepared. But my gut answer to you is that
Sir.
I'll go back to 62, right?
Sir.
In 62, when we went for a forward movement, he didn't respond immediately. He waited for a time to respond. Then, when he understood our geopolitics, he understood our internal politics, he understood the weaknesses of our army wherever we were. Then he came with a hammer and tongs, and then he came with numbers. But he was smart. What he did was he pushed us because we are not prepared. Truly, we are not prepared. जहां जहां पे हमारे बंदे लड़े वहां वहां पर उनकी ऐसी हुई. But wherever we started folding, we folded very bad, right? It was also because of poor higher leadership, and of course equipment it plays part. But the bottom line is that we folded very fast. So this he knows that now whatever has gone through in this, इससे पहले डोकलम हुआ था, by the way, right? गलवान से पहले. In Doklam, he learned some lessons, and he applied the same lessons in Galwan. Now, this 4 years of standoff, he has learned his lessons that technology plays. Men also play a huge role. We may not be great in technology infrastructure, but our men are our strength. Actually, if you look at Indian Army today, it is our soldiers who are our strength. हमारे पास सामान कैसा भी हो, but when we come to stay, we are not unwilling to die, right? So अपने cause के लिए we will fight and we will give our life for the country, which they are unwilling. So look at the places where they were able to win. In Galwan, they brought nearly 10 times of the manpower, and they overwhelmed those people, right? So wherever they have tried to beat back, they have got manpower from behind and they've done. But now when we built up, thereafter he now knows that nothing much can be done. So that is, I think, one lesson which he goes by, that he may have great technology, but he needs to build up on human resource. What we must learn is that whatever he's learned about our human resource, we must put it somewhere in our papers. Firstly, we must ensure that the human resource quality content should remain where it is, but it must go a little bit better in terms of operation natures and how you apply them. But we now need to develop our technology to match their technology. So these two things are very critical. The last point which we have to see is that when he will strike at a time when you are weaker. So the military leadership should watch the political environment of our country and also the geopolitical environment of the same. The moment they find there is a weakness coming on either of two, we have to be far much alert, because that is the time this gentleman is going to come and strike. The moment you look onto some other side, he will come and strike, and that is where your vigilance, that is where intelligence plays out, right? An appreciation which is required to be done. So we need to keep on watching that geopolitically we are getting isolated. There's a challenge. Politically at the center, we got a weaker government, which is, and therefore the country must know that whichever government you put it onto the center, must be a very, very strong government. They can't. The Chinese never pitch strength to strength. There's a basic tactic or a strategy which has been given to them by Sun Tzu. They follow Sun Tzu to the core. I hope I have given you some answers.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I really appreciate what you said, because I have kind of been debating with myself, sir. I don't really talk about these things in the open, but I debate with myself on a simple question. The battle between these two countries, and this is the last question I'll ask you, may not be a military battle. It'll be a overall battle for dominance within the region. क्योंकि बोलते हैं ना, आपके पीछे तलवार पड़ी है, तो I'll kind of take that question. एक मैदान में दो तलवार नहीं रहती, right? वो एक पुरानी saying है, या आप रहोगे या हम रहेंगे. So the Thucydides trap also, I'm sorry, I always mess up. Thucydides trap also always says that this battle is going to happen. There are loads of things, the battle of great powers, or whatever logic you take. This it may not be a military battle, but this battle will happen. Now, how do you think we have kind of understood this particular thing in the past 4 5 years? Because previous to that, and I keep thanking China for this. Let me just say this very clearly. You may or may not agree with this. I always say this: thank you, China, for waking up a sleeping tiger. Because we were very happy, merrily happy, looking towards Pakistan. Of course, the armed forces were different, but the country itself was not very focused towards China. We never took China as an adversary. It's only in the past 4 years China has knocked on the door and said, "Hey, listen, hello, Dushman, bhai, kya kar rahe ho?" So I'm thankful to him. How do you think this situation will go forward, sir? You've mentioned, may I just say this? You mentioned one thing very, very clearly, that politically India must be strong. Otherwise, he will find a vulnerability. And the third term prime minister, whatever, this number shumber and all that stuff, it's an internal game. Externally, he's still the prime minister. So China sees that strength in Prime Minister Modi. यार ये 3 बार ही आ चुका है. By nah, he's got a lot of backing. Kind of, let's back off from this. It's not going to work for us. So what you say is make a lot of strength. So how do we look at this going forward, sir?
Actually, this retreat, a lot of people were talking that it has happened because of BRICS. I feel it has happened because they were also waiting for 4 years and they were thinking that there will be a fractured mandate.
Yep.
While the mandate was fractured, it could have been a little bit worse. अगर ये थोड़ा सा और खराब होता ना,
yep.
So this reversion would have been in different manner, right? But whimpered away and said, "चलो ठीक है, तो हो गया, कोई बात नहीं. Let's work this as a new, LSE may be anything, but let's keep it quiet." I must tell you that military is always prepared, right? The military was always prepared. Military always knew which side is the threat form. But diplomacy, you need to keep quiet at the possibly the top level when you're handling at the strat level. You don't have to articulate in that sense. That is where you must thank Xi, that in his rush, when he believed that the missions he had set for himself in terms of economy, in terms of technology, in terms of infrastructure, they had set a mission for about 35, 37. They realized they have achieved in 24 because, suddenly his capacity is made very fast.
Yeah.
And then he thought maybe if I'm not wrong, he's younger to Modi or something. No? He suddenly thought that maybe I will be able to now stamp my thing. So while he tried this act with Taiwan a little bit, but then he realized this whole thing, narrative, economic, he's joined so much in economy to the West and America that it may bounce back. So which is the place I can possibly play this game with? And he thought, let's try here. Okay. So while he tried and he found a response which was robust response, then he waited for some time, hoping, and maybe he may have tried to influence, they may have tried to influence as well. But wo jab hua nahi, and I'm not a political person, by the way, I got no affiliation this side or that side. Then possibly they said, okay, it's not time for us. Let's push back. Because for 4 years, to maintain the kind of strength which is required to be maintained and continue is going to sell very badly now, it's better to have a tactical withdrawal and come back stronger at some time. I'm sure he must have sold some sort of other gin to their own people, which they are not very interested in India, by the way. They are more interested in their own economic condition. They are under challenge. There is a huge distress which is happening in the country, so they need to look after that. So I think that is why this whole pushback is happening.
Actually, sir, if you read the Chinese media, is really funny. Huh? The people are not happy. They say, "यार तुम कहे क्यों थे? तुमको वापस आना था. Why did you go there? बेवकूफों, नाक कटा के आ गए." And this is something a lot of people there are saying, "यार boss, we know India is pretty strong. Don't do this. Why are you taking pangas with someone who's going to challenge you? You should take pangas with someone who you can beat easily." So that this is the kind of rhetoric that was going on. So there were 3 categories I saw in the Chinese media, and I access them through VPN, which says that Chinese social media, which says, "Why did you go there if you needed to come back? You've gained nothing." That one photograph of Xi Jinping giving that land piece to Modi and all that went viral inside China. It absolutely went viral. So a lot of people said, "Yeah, bloody hell, we've lost face." Third one was like, okay, these are both powers, both have decided not to fight for the greater good of the region, and they'll go back. And beach wala jo tha is a lot of people were undecided. कि यार ये हुआ क्या? What happened here? बंदे मरवा लिए, उन्होंने भी मरवा लिए, तुमने भी मरवा लिए, कुछ निकला नहीं बाहर. But the bottom line that I saw in all this is Xi Jinping was thrown to the wolves. And that's when
Yeah.
they started deleting all that stuff. He was thrown to the wolves absolutely by the Chinese people. So it's really interesting to see the reaction. Although India may be similar reactions, but India is open to reaction. 2 दिन चला, उसके बाद there 1,000 things other happen. It just goes away.
You see, look at the irony, Adi. That irony is that while Xi had pushed back and he was thrown to the wolves, but in our country, the celebration for this positiveness is not happening. I hope you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Either the military got celebrated, that what we did in short time, how we pushed, how we stood fast, that celebration has not happened in the media. Nor the diplomatic community, which actually fought the thing at the diplomatic level to achieve the end state, got the credit. Nor did the political establishment, which actually was behind the entire thing. Eventually, the failure was put on his table or their table. They also not got acknowledged enough. I've not seen any articles coming out.
Was that a face saver, sir? Was that a face saver?
No, it's not a face saver. It's a success.
No, was that a face saver you were given to China? Ki, "Achha, theek hai yaar, I won't talk that much. Ja yahan se." Because China would have been looking for this, at the end of it, sorry, but a large power against a small power, when he backs off, it's a draw, right? When it's a draw, the large power is kind of looked at the loser. So have you given this sort of a face saver to the Chinese? Ki, "Achha, theek hai yaar, we won't make too much out of it, just get out from here."
Maybe. But, they may not have made. What about everybody who was tarnishing the image for last 4 years?
Yeah, absolutely.
Those people should have turned back and acknowledged.
अरे सर,
right? वो तो हुआ नहीं ना.
आपको भी पता है ना सर कैसे लोग रहते हैं हमारे यहाँ पर.
That is the unfortunate part. So you need to celebrate this success which have been given to you by the forces and by and I'm saying it's a full package of dime. That is where the whole of nation comes. It is diplomatic, informational, military, economic, everything has come to play. We have technically won this war or a conflict or a thing without actually having fired a shot.
Yeah, and that's what the game is, right? Chanakya Niti, Sun Tzu, or jo marzi bolo. Yeah,
no, everybody, Chanakya, Sun Tzu, everybody says the same thing. If you can win it without firing shots, it's the ultimate win.
Absolutely. Sirji, I must say this was an exhilarating experience talking to you. मजा आ गया. मैं आपसे offline बात कर रहा था ना. I love people who are straight shooters. मैं थोड़े, initially in the first interview, मैं थोड़े से baseline सवाल पूछता हूँ, so that, I want people to kind of get a little triggered and say that this thing, and you hit the target multiple times. I'm really, really happy to talk to you. I must say, going forward, I would love to have this conversations much more, so that we can learn so much. And I believe one thing for a factor, that it is the veterans in this country who need to teach us. And that's where this channel came from as well. And some of the most regular people on my channel are veterans, and they give us such information, such knowledge. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for your service, for your time, and I'm looking forward to having more interactions in the future. Till then, sir, Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
Thank you, Ali. Thank you. Jai Hind.